Anxiety alarm must be shut down. In this video I want to share the knowledge I've gained as an anxiety sufferer over the last 25 years in order to assist you. In other words, if I had done less talking and more feeling, I believe I would have progressed considerably faster. You know, I spent a lot of time talking to psychiatrists and psychologists about my anxiety, and if I spent half the time dealing with the alarm, it was in my body rather than my mind's thinking. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the state of alarm that exists in our bodies that no one talks about, and how to heal from that alarm, which heals you from your worry. So you don't have to suffer like I did in this episode. I'm going to talk about alarm and how it plays a significant role in what we call anxiety, and how we miss out on treating the alarm when we're always distracted by dealing with the worried mind. So, first and foremost, let me explain what I believe anxiety is. I believe anxiety is two things. It's nervous thoughts in the mind, but it could also be an alarm feeling in the body. And it is the alarm feeling in the body that fuels the worrisome ideas in the mind. In other words, worried thoughts in the mind cause alarm in the body, and alarm in the body causes even more worrisome ideas in the mind. So it simply keeps going in this cycle. So, if you can learn to separate the two, you can really start taking control of what we term anxiety, because I believe we spend far too much time in the thinking mind and far too little time in the experiencing body. And I plan to make videos about the thinking mind as well. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the feeling body, the alarm in the body. Also, if you're new here, please like and subscribe. So let's get started talking about how to get rid of that alert in your body. So that's a fast rundown. Anxiety is divided into two components. There are thinking ideas of the mind and alarm feelings in the body, and the alarm feelings in the body generate more negative thinking thoughts of the mind, and the alarm feelings in the body create more alarm in the body. That is what we refer to as anxiety. Now, we spend a lot of time with the thinking thoughts of the mind, but not so much with the alarm in the body, which I believe is a greater source of anxiety than the thoughts. Of course, they both have an impact. But in this video, I really want to emphasize on how to look at your alarm, how to even see it, since a lot of people haven't really realized that anxiety has two components. And it's a one-of-a-kind theory of mine that I'd want to share with the world. So, if you could share this video, I would be grateful. What are we going to do with our alarm? How do we get rid of the alarm and anxiety? There are three options, and we must pursue them in the order listed. And the first technique is to identify your alarm, which was really crucial for me to recover from anxiety because I didn't even realize it was there when I had patients. Now, I constantly ask them, where in your body do you feel the anxiety alarm? And many of them have never looked for the alarm in their bodies. And it's such an important part of assisting you in healing that I really want to get the message out there that we need to start educating ourselves to recognize this alarm in our bodies. So for me, it's immediately to the right of my solar plexus, feels like a fist, black, and dark. That's where my alarm went off. And when I took my one and only trip on LSD to attempt to figure out why I was so worried, it sent me a message, telling me that your alarm is the source of your worry and has been there since you were a child. So now I had this other location where my alarm was, and it allowed me to develop this theory of anxiety in which there is an alarm in the body and anxious thoughts in the mind, and the anxious thoughts in the mind make the alarm worse, and the alarm makes the anxious thoughts worse, and the cycle continues. So, if we can interrupt that cycle, we have a good chance of breaking our anxiety tendencies. So, Whether you're feeling anxious right now or the next time you're faced with speaking in front of a crowd or going into a social environment that generally causes you anxiety, I'd encourage you to try it. Find the source of your anxiety or alarm in your body. It's virtually always in the middle, almost always. It's located between your chin and pubic bone. So concentrate on this location, since concentrating on it may give you the impression that this is the source of your pain. It is not emanating from your head, but rather from your body. And if you can isolate this, if you can locate the alarm, we can use it to interrupt the alarm anxiety loop. As a fast review of an alarm anxiety alleviation, the first step is to locate your alarm to determine where it is positioned in your body. The second stage is to distinguish between the alarm and the anxiety. To me, it is simply the nervous thoughts of the mind, as I define it. Anxiety is not physically painful. What causes the alarm sensation in the body? Anxiety is nothing more than nervous thoughts. There are cautions, what-ifs, and worst-case scenarios that your mind employs to make sense of this alarm that we feel in our bodies. So, when we feel this alarm, this uncomfortable kind of fight-or-flight sensation in our body, our mind, which is just a meaning-making machine, has to make sense of it, and it makes sense of it by giving us worries, warnings, what-ifs, worst-case scenarios that once believed create more alarm in the body, and the more alarm in the body creates more anxiety in the mind, and so on. So, if we can differentiate worried thoughts in the mind from anxious feelings and sensations in the body, we have a strong chance of breaking free from worry. So here's the analogy I tell all of my patients. The alarm in the body is like a smoldering fire that will eventually burn out if you don't keep irritating it. And what we do with our thinking is simply amplify that alarm. In fact, it's like tossing matches into a smoldering fire. As a result, the fire and the alarm will go away on their own. If you stop tossing thoughts on there, every thought you throw is like throwing a match on the fire. And, of course, it will flare up again. And it will never go away if you keep throwing thoughts or matches on this smoldering fire. So we need to figure out how to quit throwing mental matches on this smoldering fire. And that brings us to phase 3, which is to focus on the sensation of your alarm. When you focus on sensation, you take yourself out of that thinking state, you take yourself out of this projected future, and all of your worrying thoughts are about the future. So you put yourself into the current moment of sensation, and when you're in sensation of this alarm and devote your CPU, your focus of attention straight on this alarm and away from the thought, you get an opportunity to feel it. When you feel it and remove it from your thoughts, you'll discover it's not so horrible. It's unsettling. Absolutely. However, getting used to that sensation, becoming more familiar with it, and accepting it can allow you to go on and heal from anxiety, because it is not the anxious thoughts that are causing the problem. It's this sense of alarm in the body, and if we simply left it alone, it would fade away, or we would get so used to it that it doesn't bother us anymore. We have this sense of alarm in our bodies, and we obsessively add thoughts to it. And by doing so, we keep tossing matches into the flames. So it goes on, and it feels like it's spiraling out of control because we're constantly and obsessively adding worrying thoughts to the alarm. So, if we can just focus on the sensation of the alarm, rather than the thoughts of the mind, we have a chance to isolate that alarm and then deal with it. And I'll show you ways of dealing with alarms specifically, as well as anxious thoughts specifically. But for the time being, we must separate the two. And the greatest way to isolate them is to immerse yourself in experience. When we feel an alarm, we are in the current moment, worrisome thoughts are always about the future. So, even if you bring yourself into the experience of the current moment, even if it is a terrible source of alarm, you are still distinct from those projected ideas, anxieties, worries, what-ifs, and worst-case scenarios of the future. Bringing yourself into that state of alarm distances you from those fearful projections of the future because they are separated in time, and then you have the alarm on its own. And by that, I mean not getting caught up in the idea that I can show you some really amazing techniques to cope with it as a review to receive alarm or anxiety relief. You must do 3 things. Find your alarm, then isolate that experience, that type of fight or flight sensation in your body, and create a relationship with it. Learn about it because it will be unique to you. And the more you learn about it, the more probable it is that you will be able to have a solid relationship with it. Once you've established a strong relationship, you'll be able to separate your feelings from your thoughts. And the third step is to entirely focus on that alarm sense, which is what the final section of this video is all about. So, I'll warn you, this is a little out there, but it's something that has personally helped me recover from anxiety, and that's the sensation of alert. Maybe your younger self is the part of you that was blamed, bullied, injured, or mistreated, and it's coming out and being stored in the body. It has been suggested that our body represents our unconscious mind, and that the body will reveal things that the unconscious mind is holding. So, if this alarm is an old carryover from traumas you experienced as a child or as an adult, such as PTSD, focusing on it, having a caring relationship with it, and genuinely loving it will be your method of healing that alert. So what happens initially is that we feel this alarm and push it away. And what would happen if a 5-year-old child approached you crying, requesting your attention, and you ignored them? So it'll wail louder, and it'll become increasingly agitated. So that's why the alarm, the anxiety in our system, gets so much worse when we ignore it, when we divert ourselves with Facebook or whatever, when we distract ourselves with whatever our addictions are. Basically, we're not paying attention to the portion of our system that is screaming for aid. And I know how this sounds, and I know how strange it sounds coming from a medical doctor and a neuroscientist, but recognizing that feeling of alarm and loving it and being sympathetic to it has been the key to my own healing. Because the nervous thoughts just vanished as I dispelled the impression of impending doom. So it isn't your thinking. In North American civilization, we're chasing thoughts in with all of this thought treatment and talk therapy. There's also nothing wrong with talking therapy. Healing is really vital and required. But we're overlooking the underlying warning that's been present in our bodies since our childhood traumas. And we won't be able to cope with it unless we create a relationship with it, stop distracting ourselves from it, and truly feel, love, and care for it. That anxiety will never go away because it took me a long time to figure this out. So, hopefully, I'm saving you 25 years of treatment. Again, there's nothing wrong with talk therapy, but we also need to take care of our bodies. And the most important thing I've discovered to work for your body is to find that alarm, love it, have compassion for it, create a connection with it, and bring it along. Because my anxiousness was entirely out of control until I did it. So, the next time you're concerned, try this, locate the alarm in your body and focus on it. Concentrate on developing a compassionate relationship with yourself because it is a million times better than worrying in your thoughts, worrying. Going straight to the source and feeling and loving it is a much better use of your energy and a far more productive use of your energy. So, the only way to heal fear is with love, so when you find yourself worrying, commit your focus to locating that alarm, loving that alarm, and building a compassionate relationship with yourself through that alarm. And if you can love yourself despite the alert, your anxiety will vanish. Now, I realize I went a little too far and woo-woo on you. And there are numerous ways to deal with the alert in your body. Yoga, Tai Chi, chanting, and dance are all forms of exercise. Anything that gets you into your body, into a sensation, into the present moment, will help with that alarm. So it's not only about loving. It is the only option available to you. Before it could heal, I discovered that the most crucial thing was to embrace and cherish that part of myself. But there are other things you can do, and you can, of course, treat the mind. Do, of course, talk therapy. But what we need to do is answer this alarm that has been ringing in our heads for a long time. And until we do, the worry will continue to worsen. The last thing I'll say is that this is a practice. Some of my patients complain that I can't find my alarm. It feels like it's all over my body, or I can't pinpoint where it is. Simply practice with it. Look for it in your midsection, between your chin and your pubic bone. That's virtually usually the case. If you can't find it immediately away, look in your heart area, that's where most people look. And then lay your palm on that area and connect with it as if it were a distressed child, because that's exactly what it is. Maybe that's your abandoned, abused, or rejected child attempting to show you that they're worried and need your care. And when you pay attention to it, you attack anxiety at its source, because what generally happens is that we get caught up in our heads, and then we start thinking about all these anxious things, and what if the problem is actually down here, and we're trapped up here? So we must distinguish between the anxious thoughts of the mind and the sensations of the body. And once we've separated the two, we may proceed with each one separately. And in my movies, I will give you special videos aimed at worried thoughts in the head as well as specific videos aimed at alarm in the body. But for the time being, really identify, find that alert, separate it from your nervous thoughts, and really appreciate that alarm because it is what will heal you. Fear is countered by love. And if you can love that part of yourself that is afraid, you will heal yourself far faster than most other therapies. That concludes this video. It's a lot longer than my usual videos, but there's a lot of worry in this one. And if you truly understand this, you're well on your way to overcoming your own worry. And I genuinely want to provide individuals the tools they need to do so. So, in the meanwhile, as anxiety sufferer, I warn you not to believe anything you think. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please subscribe and hit like button if you like this video.